Hey, what's happening, guys? So, we just got done watching Fury from, I want to say 2016, but I'm probably wrong. This is Arianna's first time seeing it. So, Arianna, tell the folks what you thought.
Well, as a follow-up to Saving Private Ryan, you guys are all assholes who wanted me to watch this. But, wow, just like, not to compare the two, because there is no comparison per se. It's just like, it was so much more grittier than I expected. Yeah. I also didn't realize how recent it was either. Mm-hmm. So that like had a lot to play in with like the graphics and the visuals and all that. And it was a lot darker. It was a lot grittier. It was almost like the animalistic side of war, versus, I mean, it's all animalistic, but that just like, what war can do to a group of men seemed to be a huge takeaway from it. Honestly, just a changing of.
Well, I do actually want to do some comparisons because it's a lot more structurally mapped over Saving Private Ryan than I remembered it being. Obviously Norman's character is like an up-him type of character. You have the new guy who comes in
better than him though.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of the characters map onto other characters from Saving Private Ryan, but their attitudes are very different. Yeah, and how they behave is very different. Even the parallel between the SS soldier who doesn't kill Upham and like leaves them, and the SS soldier who doesn't kill Norman and leaves them. Then you have like Tom Hanks Miller versus War Daddy. They end up like, one of the big differences is that Saving Private Ryan has more of that kind of traditional American sensibility about war films, where it's kind of like the few and the brave and the proud,
and that's we did it for the greater good, and it's for the better, and it almost has that more of the uplifting, like just the flashback alone, it gives you that more uplifting feeling to walk away from. I've got no upliftment from the end of this movie.
Well, because I think that our sensibilities about war in the 90s during like the Gulf War, Desert Storm,
we're still trying to justify stuff.
Well, I just think our perceptions culturally have been changed, and there's so much more media and so many more memoirs that were accessible from the Generation Kill, soldiers that we have now, that this movie, I think, is going back and doing that traditional time period of film and then doing it with the modern sensibilities of kind of how we see soldiers.
No, I see what you're saying,
soldiers. So War Daddy isn't, the like fairy godmother type of guy. It's like, and at the end, it wasn't this is important, we need to do this because it's the right thing. It's like, I have PTSD and I am obsessed, and what I wanted to say basically is it's about more indoctrinated soldiers. These are soldiers who are so bought into the war and the system, that killing now, it's like, these are when you think about the other guys and are talking about going home, you think on a idealistic level, it's going to be so hard for these guys to go home and reintegrate to society. But these guys really show you, and you're like, no, I definitely understand that this guy probably doesn't even want the war to end.
Greatest job I've ever had.
Yeah,
that's line in the movie.
But it's that thing where if you don't allow yourself to get indoctrinated into the system you're in, you can't survive. So it's like, it becomes the way to survive in this unforgivably horrible scenario that I've been put into. I have to buy in and make it a part of my blood, and then you get cut off and go home, and then you're like, it's so difficult to make that kind of jarring transition. So it's kind of a Saving Private Ryan for the modern man,
fair
to an extent, because again, a lot of the scenes, it's like, even having the the middle point when they find out that like, it's kind of like when I talk to Ted Danson, it's like when I talk to Captain Hook, can't remember that actor's name, and then getting set up at the end to have to, like, you've got to hold this bridge, and a whole bunch of guys are going to come, and there's very few of you, and you got to hold this bridge, and if you don't, then down the road it's way more problems. So it has a lot of really interesting crossover. The other big thing for me is this is, for me, the first movie where I started being like, oh, Shia LaBeouf can act.
Oh, no, for sure.
This was almost the kickstart of like his
Dude, that man career. Has tears in his eyes for 3/4 of the movie, and it doesn't look like staged or bad or unnecessary. It's like, and it's literally 75% of the movie.
No, he's so good in this. He's easily my favorite character in the movie.
Absolutely.
I love him so much. His little, there's a couple little lines and speeches that really stick out to me. I love the my first favorite one in order is after Emma dies, when the building gets bombed, and Kunas is holding Norman, and he's telling him, he's like, that's war, you feel it? And it's like, and that's almost like an encapsulation of the whole movie, where it's like you said, it's that grittier, like, it's Saving Private Ryan isn't trying to make the war look sexy either. This one shows how it's just so grimy and so disgusting, and it's like this worst feeling you've ever felt in your life, like, that's war. You feel that? That's what this is. We've been doing this since Africa. America, you know?
Yeah.
And then the next one is Bible giving his little speech before, you know, he knows they're all about to die. And he's explaining the, you know, Isaiah 6 and how, you know, here am I, Lord, send me, and how it's hard for him to even say it because they're all so terrified they're going to die.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just thought he was
also that moment where like War Daddy like says what verse it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
what
right.
book it's in.
Really
that was
good,
a nice little
because he's been fighting him the whole time
like
too,
stop
you know?
preaching at me or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
That's almost a parallel with finding out that Tom Hanks is a school teacher. You know?
Right?
It's like there's more to him. We've known this guy forever.
Exactly.
Even I forget the actor's name. I like him a lot though, but he's explaining how like I've been with him since, you know, however long ago, and I still don't know what he does for a living.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very it's I didn't realize how, because I'd been so many years since I'd seen both of them you know, back to back, and so yeah, seeing them so close to each other, I was like, wow, really the whole structure of the story, they go through like so many of the same beats. Even down to like the suicide mission at the end where everyone basically dies except for one guy, and then this time, since we don't have a Ryan, it's Upham who survives.
Right.
And so yeah, really.
Well, Norman, don't call him Upham. He showed up. He started to shoot.
Well, I'm saying instead of Ryan. Though,
yeah. I mean.
Well, and again, both the characters do a similar thing too, where they undergo a very obvious, noticeable change about their demeanor.
Absolutely.
You know, Upham shooting the German guy.
They like it away.
They like it away.
Steamboat Willie.
But Steamboat Willie. And then Norman, you know, finally, the first time he really like lets on some people is probably during the tank fight when it's the boss battle between the Tiger tank.
Right.
And that was a big thing. And that's why they kind of tried to bring it up in those first opening scrawls, is that like that was a big deal towards the late part of the war. I think this movie takes
just
place
their artillery was better and their tanks and
specifically
stuff.
The Tiger tank. It was like a new thing that came on the block, and it was, in comparison, it's like, you know, almost a modern tank versus the old styles.
Right.
One of the big issues is that we had those Shermans, and we couldn't penetrate anywhere except the rear armor where it was thinnest, and so that's part of the big thing at them having to get behind it.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's faster, so that was really difficult. It also just had way longer range too.
Cool.
So it's a really cool scene. But like, it's a cool scene, but tankers, you know, were like, well, wait a second. Like, if he just stayed back in the bush where he was, he would have just killed everybody. Like,
right.
It's whatever. It is a really cool scene, but yeah, that's kind of when Norman really, you know, starts to pick up.
Well,
so
I think that's also like when, after he realizes like they don't give a shit about their own people. You know what I mean? They come in and
well,
like
they bomb their own town.
That's what I'm saying. They bomb their own town. I think that's kind of what clicked in him. I think it started to click too, seeing the hanging like bodies of basically children, and like that was also like really dark but really good to see, just because at that point in time, like if you were not with the Nazis and Hitler and that regime 100%, they didn't care about you and your own country, and that's even more fucked up.
That's something
too.
else I think this movie does more in depth. I won't say better, because Saving Private Ryan's
no.
Like something it does more in depth than Saving Private Ryan does is
also they're not in Germany in Saving Private Ryan. Aren't they coming through France?
France, yeah. But point being though is that they don't make a lot of they don't put a lot of effort and time into differentiating between like the average.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Except for the people who are really paying attention, like there's a lot of people speaking Czech in that movie, and it's because they're basically like slave warriors.
They were
Czech
that
had been conquered, and in a lot of the scenes when they're like screaming, and what they're saying most of the time is like, "I'm not a Nazi, like I'm not a German, don't kill me." In that first movie, and so you kind of have that part, but in this one they make way more energy into like this is an SS guy, and then these are you know, like just Hitler youth who've, you know, basically been kidnapped, you know,
like that whole scene where it's like literally all like 12-year-old females and males coming out, and they're like, is that the one? Like get, because that's just like, it's really dark when you look at it that way. Like, I don't know.
It was very dark.
So dark. Like when he got so desperate for that. I mean, we know the man got desperate, but to see it like just in film, for me at least, to see it in film was just like more eye opening, you know?
Yeah.
And more like what the fact that they had people, their own citizens, hanging down the road. Yeah, like, this is what we'll do if you don't completely join their cause. But then you go and see the bullshit of the aristocrats and the higher ups kill themselves anyway because they knew it was coming. So like,
well, and that's kind of his line, is, you know, like, ideals are peaceful, but history is
exactly.
Violent.
Look at this. They knew.
Right, because like the Nazis didn't set out to go be the world's supervillains. You know, they thought that they were on the right path.
Absolutely.
And then you see what it breeds. And the point of, you know, not the point of it happened because it happened, but the point of books, you know, that's like ordinary men. talk about how like we should use all of that as an opportunity to understand that like when you think that you're off to go save the world, you know, maybe, you know, best intentions are still the roadway to hell, and so you should always be sober that there's no ideal that's greater than what the things you're doing are. And if your ideal is leading to a pathway of hanging children, then like maybe your ideal is off, you know. So yeah, really powerful movies, both of them. I'm a big fan of both, and they both feel very different, even though
they felt completely different. Even though I cried pretty much the majority of this one too, but it felt like I said, like for me, it was almost like a shift in scene perspective of how much a war can do, like all that, like when they're in the city and like they come in and they want to act a fool in that like thing because they feel like they've been left by war daddy and they were like want to be obnoxious. Like I get it, they're Germans, whatever, but like that whole scene, like, hey, we've got a chick down for you, like go hang out. I was like, oh, you already got this. Now you know for the rest of us, like that's just literally seeing man at, I don't want to say seeing man at his core or whatever, but like when it comes to like wartime,
well, it's just war.
Wartime and stuff, it's like you take, like you've conquered, and it's still like, I'm happy they don't expand the scene. I'm happy they take it down the story because they're like, I'm drunk, like you took this man, you're having this meal, you left us outside, but we were there from you when we had to go through and we had to experience what we experienced, and that like it balances out the grossness. You know what I mean? Because you see how genuinely hurt they are.
I'm glad they.
And it like, I don't know, it gives you both sides very quickly in a way that's like a little bit not as yucky. I know I'm not using great describing words, but from a female perspective.
I'm glad they included it because it's very easy to just make all your characters really likable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And war for time immemorial has been, rape has always been spoils of war. So I think it's very... courageous is too strong a word, but it was good of them to include that is a massive part of what happens in every war.
Absolutely.
And there's multiple allusions. It's like in the beginning of the movie when they're like, you know, oh, if you give that girl a chocolate bar, she'll fuck you. It's like that's because that was a common thing. It's like these people are super, super oppressed, and their whole, you know, cities are being destroyed, and they're so destitute for resources that, you know, there's all. I mean, you see it in Full Metal Jacket with like the Vietnamese people. It's like same kind of thing. It was like that happens all the time, and that's in a transactional kind of sense. It's like straight up, you know, against your will rape has always been a massive part of war. And so that was a huge thing in like, you know, Frank Herbert writing about in Dune is like why they wanted to have like the female warriors because they didn't want that to be a part of it kind of thing. It's like that's been in history for so long. So I am really glad. And it was very like Arianna was saying, it was a fine dance to have to do to make it where the characters don't cross over into some kind of point that makes you be like, okay, well, I'm totally off board with them for the rest of the movie and I can't get on board again. So again, brave, cool choice for them to do. Something didn't come up in Saving Private Ryan because it's easy to just write around them not interacting with a lot of the locals. But the fact of the matter is that they were constantly interacting with them, especially when you're in, you know, Germany and you're blowing up. Like, where are they going to run to? It's like, you know, people in France and stuff are going to allies, but like when you're in Germany, like it's your hometown. Yeah. Where are you? It's
being destroyed regardless.
So yeah, it was really interesting seeing the similarities. I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts about, you know, the differentials and how you feel about both movies. It's impossible for me to kind of pick like which one I prefer or like better. I just think they both cover such. It's really cool to see two sides of a coin of them covering such similar kind of material,
right.
In very kind of different ways. Like I said, for the structure being so weirdly similar, and I forgot how similar, the feel is totally different.
Completely different. Yeah.
So that was really cool. And I like how we spend more time kind of getting to know our characters.
Oh, yeah,
like,
for
you have
sure.
So much more of a vibe of who they are by the end. And I think some of that also comes from because this is also, instead of line infantry, this is a tanker movie. So because they're all literally sitting on top of each other, it's like you really
such
are
close
in there.
quarters. You have to get to know him at that point.
Yeah, like I feel like the only thing I know about Mellish, you know, is that he's Jewish.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no, exactly.
So with these guys, it's like, I feel like I know them, you know, and so that really came across as well. So, all right, awesome, guys. Do you have any final thoughts or anything?
Oh, are we going to rate this?
Oh, sure. Yeah. What do you want to rate that? I forgot.
4.5. Yeah, just because like it took me on the same type of roller coaster, or not roller coaster, but it was just like that grittierness. It's not that it was bad by any means. It's just for as much for me. Yeah. I would say. Yeah. Just hits a little deeper. You know?
I would also give this one a 4.5 because I think that it gets a little schmaltzy in parts. And people complain about that with Saving Private Ryan, which I understand that too. But it's more tonally consistent in that movie. This one, like for instance, the ending, like, you know, fading back and forth between the tank and Norman's face and stuff. I think some of those scenes feel like they almost clash.
Yeah.
And the other issue I have is I just do not... Man, what's his freaking name? No. All right, so yeah, Michael Peña. I don't. Like him. Like, I just didn't believe him at all.
I do think it's kind of an odd to have a Hispanic, like...
No, that would have been fine.
No, you just don't like anything he does, period?
I literally can't think of a single... No, okay, the only thing is he's really funny in Ant-Man. But he's barely in it, you know? So it's like... and also comedy is his thing. Like, that's his angle. So he almost is the comedic relief character in the movie. You could say Jon Bernthal is close there too. But he just, like... I just never... Like, every time I was watching him, it felt like it's a modern scene. Even his accent, the way he talks, everything feels very modern. It doesn't like I don't think I'm in the 40s.
Like his random chain.
Like you know, and just like, oh man, it's like at minimum, even if I don't say that it's bad, it could have been anybody else. You know, I think everyone else nailed their role so much. I think Brad Pitt killed it. I think
Shia LaBeouf
for sure. Killed it. I think Jon Bernthal killed it. I think what do you call it? Okay, another one.
Gordy, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, Gordy. Yeah, Norman too. He's like, okay, I like him better than Michael, but he also like that could have been Dylan Minnette, and no one would have even.
I've been
cared.
Trying to figure out who he was, and then I was like, oh, it's the guy from Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yes.
I had no idea what his actual name was because I was like, I know who it is, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. They have so much crossover.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You could swap these two any day of the week,
honestly,
and no one would even
like,
notice.
No offense, but like, also, that's a little bit stronger of an actor in a lot of things, too, so whatever.
That's what I mean.
It doesn't matter. I don't care. Yeah. I thought it was fine. Like I don't have the vendetta that Chad has against the actors right now.
And then it's also, I think this is one of the very first Scott Eastwood movies as well, which I thought was cool. I didn't catch him the first time because I didn't know that Clint Eastwood even had an acting son. But I just saw him recently in Wrath of Man, and he was pretty good in that. And so it was kind of cool seeing him again in this one. So yeah, man. So it's a good one. Check it out if you haven't. And so yeah, appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll catch you later.
Thanks, guys. Bye.